Hi, my name is Christina. I am the gift shop associate at the Marine Environmental Education Center.
So I'm Taylor. I am the Marine Environmental Education Center volunteer coordinator and educator.
My name is Carly and I'm the education coordinator here at the MEEC.
My name is Kelly Martin and I'm the program coordinator here at the MEEC.
My name is Derek Burkholder. I'm a research scientist at Nova Southeastern University, and I'm director of the Marine Environmental Education Center at the Carpenter House.
I have loved the ocean my entire life and have been fascinated by its plethora of creatures.
So I went into marine science because when I was a kid, we would go to the beach all the time, and I actually got stung all over by a jellyfish, and I became petrified of the ocean. And my first instinct was to try and learn everything about it because I was so afraid of it. And slowly I nurtured a love of it and appreciation of it, and now I'm in the marine science field.
We went on a beach vacation every year just about growing up, so it's just always been a part of my life. I went to school right by the ocean, and then I took a year off and coached in the mountains, and I felt out of balance, and that's kind of when I was like, oh, this is the first time I've been away from the ocean. How do I get back there? So I just kind of ended up in it.
Honestly, I don't really know what made me get into marine science. I was always just an animal nerd as a kid. I loved any and all animals, but really loved the ocean. Obviously, I grew up in a landlocked state. I grew up in Michigan, so that was hard to come by. But I just always had an interest in any and every kind of animal as a kid, and particularly in the marine environment.
Well, if you ask my parents, I was, I think 13 years old when we were on a family trip in Florida. We did a swamp tour, and from their stories, I came off the boat and told them that the naturalist on the boat was the job that I was going to be doing. That I fell in love with it and loved the ocean, the water. Grew up in Michigan, so always was around water, but have loved the ocean my whole life. And then to actually get here, I was very fortunate in my undergraduate at Albion College to work with a fantastic mentor and professor, Jeff Carrier, who allowed me to start learning in shark biology and be able to get into the field, and has made a number of connections for me that have allowed me to get to where I am today.
I majored in English with a concentration in folklore and mythology.
So in undergrad, I majored in marine vertebrate biology at Stony Brook University on Long Island. I knew I definitely didn't want to work with microbiology stuff, so I thought it was the perfect program. And now I'm doing my master's at Nova Southeastern University in marine science, and I'm in the Charismatic Megafauna and Oceanography lab.
Technically, I majored, I was a double major, biology and secondary ed, and then when Common Core was becoming a thing, I just decided that education wasn't for me in a traditional sense, just because I didn't agree with how kids were being taught to just answer test questions instead of teaching them life skills. So I decided just to fall back on biology because that is such a broad major to have. Literally the study of life, I could kind of go any which way. And I knew I wanted to somehow work with kids. So just kind of finding something that was matching up with what I wanted to do, which was science, but also involving kids somehow.
I got my undergraduate degree in zoology. Like I said, I grew up in kind of a landlocked state, so they didn't have a marine bio program, so I got my degree in zoology with a minor in marine biology. And then I moved to Florida and I got my master's in marine science.
So for undergrad, I was at Albion College in Michigan, and I was majoring in biology there with an environmental studies concentration. And once I finished there, I moved to Florida and went to Florida International University for my PhD in marine ecology.
My first job was right here at the MEEC as a gift shop associate, and I just turned 25.
So my first job in the field, I had done a lot of volunteering and internship opportunities in undergrad at different marine rehabilitation centers and for different research labs, but the first job where I was getting paid for it, I was an educator at a marine science camp. I was 22 when I first got that job. And it was really just opportunistic. I had just moved down to Florida and I was searching for jobs, and a friend of mine actually used to work there and recommended me. So it was very much clandestine, but also a little bit of networking.
My first job in the field was at Sea Camp. So it's down in the Keys. It's called Newfound Harbor Research Institute during the school year, and then Sea Camp during the summertime. So I was a marine science instructor. So I got that job when I was 23.
My first job was actually an internship right after my junior year while I was an undergrad, and it was working with sea turtles. I was working at a rehabilitation facility that also conducted nesting surveys and sea turtle tagging research. So I did an internship, like I said, after my junior year of college, and that was my first real experience.
My first job in the marine science field was actually just after I graduated from Albion. I moved to the Florida Keys and worked as a staff biologist for Mote Marine Lab in Summerlin Key.
It was completely serendipitous, but I felt that this was where I needed to be.
So I actually fell into my specialty. Right now I'm actually working on a project with sea otters. I'm in the charismatic megafauna lab, so I never intended to go into marine mammals. I was very much interested in general ecology and trophic dynamics, but I researched things that I was interested in and spoke to my professors. It's a lot about talking to people, about expressing what your interests are to as many people as possible, and people sort of aim you to who to talk to. So eventually I told enough professors what I was interested in, that I was still fairly broad in my interests, and they all pointed me to my current advisor.
A lot of marine science education jobs or just environmental education jobs in general are seasonal. So they're for a year-long contract, 6-month contract, whatever it was, and my time was kind of coming up in my previous job. And I was looking for a way to get back to the ocean. I had just been doing a freshwater resource environmental job, so it was a little bit different, but I was just trying to get back to marine science education, and this just kind of worked out.
Actually, that internship is what landed me in the sea turtle world. Like I said, I have an interest in all things marine, all things ocean. I didn't really have a particular career path when I was an undergrad, and that internship kind of solidified it for me. I loved the work. Sea turtles absolutely fascinated me. So I decided to stick with it, and that internship and the connections that I made through that kind of launched my career into the marine science field.
To end up in my specialty, I have been very lucky to work with a number of fantastic mentors and advisors to help kind of direct my path. I've always been in love with the ocean. I've always been in love with animal behavior, and so I've been, again, very lucky to be able to find people that I can work with that have allowed me to do that kind of work. For my PhD, I worked with Dr. Mike Heithaus at Florida International University and was able to travel to Australia for about 6 months a year to study tiger sharks, sea turtles, seagrass, and how they all interact in the fantastic place called Shark Bay in Western Australia. And really just have been able to take those experiences and kind of turn it into what I'm doing now.
Follow whatever your heart is telling you to do, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
So if I could give advice to someone interested in the marine science field, I would probably tell them to get out there and talk to people. I personally went into science because I didn't love the idea of talking to people. I really want to work in a lab and focus on the facts, but the scientific community has definitely evolved to the point where it is very much about networking. It's about talking, it's about getting to know people. It's very opportunistic in that way, where it is very much about the skill set, but you also want to be able to volunteer for everything. You want to take on internships, you want to get connections, advisors, people that can recommend the best pathway, because since there are so many different specialties, there are so many different paths you can go on, and it's really hard to just navigate yourself.
Advice I would give, especially if you're in college, get involved with whatever you can become involved with, whether it's research, working with a professor that has some interest that you're kind of following, or doing internships, volunteering. Although you're not getting paid in a way, you are getting paid in knowledge and experience and connections, especially nowadays. Just because you want to work with sharks, but you then volunteered for a sea turtle thing, in a couple of years or a couple of months, that connection that you made at the sea turtle world might actually help you out in the long run. So just get involved as much as you can, even if it's not what you want exactly, because it'll just open up more avenues for you.
Oh, if I could go back, I'd have lots of advice. Do internships, do volunteer work, do whatever hands-on work that you can get. The connections that you make doing that are really what's going to land you a career in the field ultimately. You know, we talk about what degrees we got and where we're going to school and things like that. Ultimately, that's not really the most important thing. It's the experience that you get when you're going through school, after school, whatever you can do to get your hands on in the field. Because the connections that you make doing those things are what's going to get you your jobs in the future. They're going to get you additional opportunities. They're going to get you additional contacts, and that's really what I would suggest is do as much field work as you can, make as many connections as you can, that kind of thing.
Some of the best advice I think I can give to anybody going into the science field, marine biology, anything like that is really to try to get out and get as much experience as you possibly can. What I've found and in my own career path is that it's been those experiences and the people that I've worked with and those connections that I've made that have allowed me to get to where I want to go. You know, I can have the best grades and do all those things right, but without having that one step up, that extra thing on the CV or that extra letter of recommendation for that internship you did or something like that, that's what I found for myself. And you know, the interviews that I'm doing for hiring students and things like that, those are the things that I'm looking for that say that you can get out of the classroom and still be very successful in what you're doing. So, you know, for me, as much experience, any opportunity that comes up, I say definitely take advantage of it. And then on the sort of the academic side of it, I would say get as much statistics as you possibly can, as much computer programming as you possibly can, things like R Studio, and then obviously don't shy away from that writing either. You're going to be doing more of that than you ever thought possible when you're going into science, and it's a huge part of everything you do.